Hello everyone, welcome back to the Pikmin 3 commentary. In this part, we unfortunately have to save Louie.
Ah,
I know.
There's no like multiple endings where you like.
no,
If
you
you
have to
ignore
you have to
people.
save him to progress the game.
The split Pikmin timeline, the time where Louie is not saved
If you
versus
do
the
not
time where
rescue
Louie is saved.
It becomes like a Catherine thing from the game where you choose to save Louie or leave Louie behind, and it's like, what did everyone else say? 100% leave Louie behind.
Hey Pikmin is in the timeline of Pikmin 2 where you don't go back to save Louie on the planet. Oh man.
I need to actually finish my copy of Catherine Fullbody. The game just feels a bit bloated now with the extra story segments that they added in.
It's a little too full body.
Yeah.
Okay. Man,
Well, Ted thought it was funny.
I remember there being a lot of controversy over the extra stuff that they added.
That was all
a
just,
lot of which.
That was all just based on out of context stuff people heard about secondhand. So, ignore that shit. Okay?
And people won't be damned to be learned the
Okay,
context.
I mean, to be fair, without the context, a lot of it looks really bad. In one of the quote-unquote good endings, the transgender character doesn't ever gender transition. So that's a little iffy.
The sad thing is
in my
that's
opinion.
still a step up from what the original game did with the character. So, bleh.
Yeah.
I mean, Japan in general not the best when it comes to the
No.
LGBTs, but Atlas is not one of the better examples either.
I'm already looking forward to the comments.
Oh yeah. Let's.
But setting that aside, which wasn't even what I was talking about, Catherine Fullbody just feels like it's got like an extra subplot that probably should have been cut out in the editing phase because it's really goddamn extraneous to everything else going on around it. Like,
curse that Hokatite ship. It drives me to drink. So one thing that I do love is that A, the fucking ship for Pikmin 2 is just dead. B, they took off the gold plating at some point. And C, we get the original. They imply that we're getting the original dolphin back, which, just as a fan of the first game,
well,
I
it
really
makes sense
enjoy.
that they took off the gold plating because that's the most valuable part of the ship. Just take it and
Oh, yeah.
sell it.
Yeah, that's a good point. They got so under again that they had to.
Well, I mean, it's
Rip it off.
literally just something that you can sell for money. It doesn't even need to be functional. It's made of gold. Just sell it. They'll make something else out of it later.
Hokatite Fright must be the worst shipping company of all time if they go into debt 10 minutes after coming out of debt the first time.
Oh no,
Uh,
we've walked into a Pikmin Shadow of the Colossus crossover.
yeah, this is probably the scariest boss in the game, I would say. The first boss, the final boss, I should say, is definitely harder. But this guy, I feel like, has more of a a propensity to eat 20 Pikmin at once, like that, like he just did.
Holy hell, that was... Wow.
Yeah, this guy is pretty rough. There are strategies you can do to get a better chance for it. First off, I'm bringing reds here because my internal, like in my brain, I'm hard-coded that you bring reds to boss fights because they do more damage. But
I'm sorry, but this boss, like, okay, up until this point, even the enemies have been kind of, adorable for the most part, just look at this cutesy Pikmin game. You're throwing around cute little plant monsters and picking up fruit. Suddenly Nightmare Fuel.
yeah, this guy's terrifying.
Yeah, it's like you fought Spider Boy earlier, and now you're fighting Spider Man.
This is like, wow, suddenly we're playing...
Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
Well, Shadow of the Colossus is cross with like some killer IP,
with
some
Bloodborne.
killer original IP where we're fighting like real alien horrors in a horror-like setting.
Yeah, it's Shadow of the Colossus mixed with Bloodborne.
Yeah, so it's just funny to me too that when you start to think about this game in terms of IRL scale, this thing's maybe the size of a cat. Which I don't know, I just find funny. Speaking of Shadow of the Colossus, when Pikmin 4 eventually comes out, sometime in the next decade, I think it would be really neat to see them try to do a take on a human-sized like monster, and see what that would look like in terms of Pikmin. What kind of fight would that be?
And then when you kill it, the black mist comes out and stabs Olimar in the chest as it dramatically freezes the frame.
Just stabs Louie.
I can see a human-sized boss in a Pikmin game being a really excellent finale, where the entire the boss's body is the entire stage, and they go like full-on Super Mario Galaxy with the gravity.
Yeah, that would, and also, again, thinking about it from the human perspective, you want to know what's really terrifying? Hundreds of bugs crawling all over you. And, like, ripping apart your skin, which is what real bugs do when they try to eat you. It's nuts.
Which is why I don't think they would have you fight, like, a human, but maybe
Well,
like
we're saying human-sized, but...
Yeah, like a robot, maybe.
Yeah, like, that would be cool. I'm just also saying bugs are terrifying.
It turns out to be a giant robot dinosaur, and it turns out we're on the planet from Horizon Zero Dawn the whole time.
So the Pikmin apocalypse is one of those past apocalypses where...
When the Horizon takes place in the future.
Yeah, but it's one of those future dinosaur pasts where the future is prehistoric because fuck.
Well, I bring up robot dinosaurs because that's what, for some reason, most of the enemies in Horizon Zero Dawn are.
Also, I love that when you scan Louie here, the title for him changes from Olimar to Food Thief. Yeah,
they mistook.
They
mistook this guy for Olimar.
Yeah, they thought he was Olimar because he didn't say his name really clearly in their original broadcast. So they say like that Olimar. He's such an asshole the entire game, and when you find him and then you go to the ending cutscene, they're like, oh wait, this guy's actually Louie.
I heard the name. It was synonymous with Dolt on our planet.
Yeah, Louie is Hawkitation for Dolt. His parents did not like him very much, which is why he lives with his
they
grandma.
shouldn't.
If I got to this part of the game, though, and you see Louie on the ground, presumably dead, and you're carrying him to the ship, I'm like, fuck, we're going to feed Louie to the damn thing.
Beast.
That is the bad ending of Pikmin 1, where after you try to lift off and can't, the Pikmin bring you back to the onion, and then you grow as a Olimar Pikmin, which is like, what?
An interesting side tale that we'll never get.
I have never seen the bad ending of this game where you run out of fruit.
It's also one of the
Hayward Moon.
It's also one of the questions of can Pikmin survive on other planets?
Interesting.
Because it's like, why wouldn't Olimar bring some Pikmin back as like cheap labor or something for the?
Because that's slavery.
No, we talked about the Prime
they're
Directive
slaves
earlier,
in this game as you're using them now.
Oh, that's nice. Already got all of our fruit back, all of our juice, 54, 55.
It's really satisfying when you get all of it back because then you just have this whole row again, and it's awesome.
Well, Brittany, we do have almost 2 months worth of food here. We could just sit back and take a vacation instead of going back for immediately.
I mean, to be fair though, everybody on our planet is also starving. So
well, that's their problem.
Well, I mean, it's our problem too.
They didn't go out and find food. We did.
The unfortunate thing about that, Ted, is that 54 rations of juice lasts a long time for like 3 people, but
the people back on Kopai need to pull themselves up by their space bootstraps, like we did.
You take that back to the planet, and you'll feed 50-something people for one day. And suddenly, it's a lot less
to be
significant.
fair though, we don't need these extra 30. We could ship them back just to, I don't know, feed our cat.
Well, the thing is, they're not using the fruit as food inherently to feed the planet. What they're doing is they're juicing down the fruit and saving the seeds.
Oh, I see.
So that the seeds can then. So 6 months from now, when they get back, then they'll be able to start feeding.
Well,
their
that
people.
makes it feel a little bit more important to get as much fruit as you can. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, and I assume that they're properly planning in that. Okay, we've got like a year left of food, so we need to start growing new food like now. Also, I love that they tie Louie up once they bring him back, so that he can't steal anything anymore. And in the
Louie, let us know when it's too tight. Too tight. Squeeze. I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you.
One of my other favorite parts is just like how the rubber ducky floats around the cabin when you're in the ship and picking your day. Louie also floats around the cabin, so sometimes you'll be picking your area, and Louie will float across the screen and cover the screen up for a half second, which is just, I think that's a really cute touch.
Freedom. Terrible, terrible freedom.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
Watch out, they're ruffled.
You just see the little Pikmin arguing a save the queen. Which one's the queen?
I am.
Queen. No, you're not.
I have a flower on my head. That makes me the queen.
You fool, we all have flowers.
So why is Louie floating but we're standing on the ground?
Because we're standing
Is
on the ground.
gravity just really selective right now?
Or you could just be having, like, magnetized boots.
We have fruit juice inside us. Louis does not.
Yeah. Brittany complains about having another mouth to feed.
I mean, Brittany, have you thought about this? How about we don't feed Louie?
And they've established that Louie can survive several days without food before. This game and Pikmin 2 both prove that. So, I mean, we feed him like once a week, maybe, just to be sure. I think that sounds reasonable.
The thing is, I'm pretty sure that Louie and Olimar aren't capable of, like, filling up on juice.
I think they don't really go too deep into their diets. Louie will eat anything, and I mean,
well, I
literally
mean,
anything.
it will probably keep them alive and nourished. Well, it will keep them alive and give them nutrition, but I think they'll be feeling hungry the whole time. Is the thing.
It's sort of. It's said that in this game that Kopai could eat the vegetables from Rangatate if they wanted to. They're just stupid picky.
Yeah, they decide not to because they're too picky eaters, which I find really, really funny. That is also one thing that I think about is that when Pikmin 4 eventually does come out, I do hope that it is this crew again that we manage to play as, all Brittany, Charlie, and Alf. And then, you know what, I would love a side mode or just an alternate character unlock thing that's non-canon where you can play as Olimar, Louie, and the President. I just think that would be cool because I love these characters and they flesh them out a lot more than Olimar, Louie, and the President. Those characters don't ever talk much. So while they're iconic, they're just not as interesting to me, and I really like these guys. I don't know what the plot of the next game would be. I'd assume that they'd work off the good ending and be like, our food problem is saved. I suppose they could also make new characters for that too, but
I wouldn't mind new characters.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that either. It's just I really like these guys, and I'd love them to come.
I mean,
back.
the interesting thing is there was a fourth captain in development.
There was?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not actually know that. Oh wait, no, I think
he was purple, I believe.
And he was really tall, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I do remember that.
He's part of concept
Now,
art.
this is an interesting question because part of what makes Pikmin interesting on a tonal level is that you are kind of alone out here and you're exploring the unknown with Pikmin as your only real allies, solving problems, gathering resources. So too much character bloat would kind of ruin that.
Yeah, I don't think that we need a in-canon game where we have a new set of captains and the Pikmin 3 captains and the Pikmin 1 and 2 captains. I think that would be too much. These games have a cutesy, fun feeling, but I do agree in that if you have 10 named captains wandering around, it would be bloody.
For this situation, they actually did a pretty remarkable job at balancing having multiple characters with relationships with each other and returning characters and maintaining that sense of isolated exploration. It's it's a little like exploring a frontier, really. They need to keep that sense, but they're also expanding the cast now, so how do we balance that? How do we keep fans of different characters groups satisfied while introducing new characters and situations while maintaining that tone, you know?
Yeah. I think it helps that in this case that Olimar is in the game, but he's a plot device and not really a character. So you're thinking, as a fan of the series, you probably were wondering, well, where the fuck's Olimar? What happened to him? And it's like, oh, he's here, but you have to find him, which is satisfying as a fan.
It's
and then you get attached to these guys.
It's a little like playing Dragon Age Inquisition, where you're a new protagonist again, but eventually you do meet Hawk from Dragon Age 2, and he has a part to play, and then he exits stage right, and you also get a letter from whoever your custom-created Dragon Age Origins character was, so you know he or she is out there, assuming they survived Dragon Age Origins, which doesn't always happen.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to be the one who's going to ring the Devil May Cry reference bell here. Ding. In that, I think that's also the kind of feeling that they were going for in Devil May Cry 4, in that you're playing as Nero, but Dante's still there and wandering around and doing things, but he's not he's the main part of the story.
He's kind of cast as a mentor for Nero rather than the main character.
Yeah, and then when you beat the game, you get the fan service bit of, oh, I get to play as Dante after all.
Well, you play as Dante.
Well, you get halfway through.
You play as Dante for most of the second half.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah.
Also, I have no idea how you're actually intended to kill this guy, because you need to use Rock Pikmin to break his claw, but Rock Pikmin can't swim, and he never comes out of the water. So I assume there's a more efficient way to fight that guy.
Get a lot of blues, use a potion, and just bum rush him and kill him before he eats too many Pikmin.
I mean, I guess, but I don't think that that's the way you're supposed to do it.
That's the way I found.
Yeah, I mean, what I think I'm trying to do I don't even know what I'm trying to do. I remember that I did... Oh, I cut here because I had Brittany come back with a whole bunch of blues, and I think that is just what I'm going to end up doing, is just fuck him and not get rid of the claw. And
you left one behind. Wait.
It's okay. I've got other people there to pick them up later. It's just I do not like fighting a Pikmin boss where I know that the only plan is to sacrifice a couple. I just don't like doing that. I'm more okay if I'm fighting the boss naturally and a couple happen to die because I made a mistake. But if my strategy going in is to sacrifice the poor guys, I'm just miserable anytime I try to do that.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm playing these kind of games, I tend to get into the role of the character that I'm playing, and I try to get into their head, and my default frame of mind usually involves, I'm going to try and protect my allies, because that seems like the altruistic mindset. So, in a game like this, I might accept losses, but I'll generally try to avoid strategies that require them.
Yeah, I'm not the anime chess player who's like, these guys are pawns. I'm gonna use them for whatever sees fit. Keikaku Doraemon. I don't actually watch anime. I don't. But you know the trope I'm talking about. The anime player who's supposedly really, really good at chess, but is like cold and heartless.
Oh yeah.
People are meant to be used.
Those characters that romanticize their own cynicism.
Yeah, just like real life.
Usually a social Darwinist too.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, unless if it's them that's getting left behind, then it's totally unfair. How dare people treat them like that?
I like checkers anyway.
You know what? This is actually...
You left Pikmin in the ground.
Well, if they're in the ground, they're fine.
Yeah, they won't... Okay, don't quote me on this. I believe that Pikmin can never be eaten when they're in the ground. I think there might be like one enemy that might be able to do it, but I'm 90% sure they can never be eaten while they're in the ground.
Well, is it random what enemy appears?
It's just a cutscene. The Pikmin are set to die as a trigger.
He means in context of actual gameplay, not the end of day cutscene.
It's always in the cutscene. It's always the same enemy per area. So like this area, it's always that Bulborb.
I love mock bottom. Yeah.
This commentary has hit mock bottom, everyone.
That's what I'm calling like someone that gets a surgically implanted.
Yeah, ass implants, mock bottom.
Okay,
Yeah,
so For the purposes of the people of the monsters eating them, what are the Pikmin? Are they plants? Are these monsters herbivores? Or are they animals? Are these monsters carnivores?
Herm.
Good question.
Like we were fighting a crab monster, and I'm pretty sure what crabs would be eating is stuff like other fish. So
I mean, it could be a thing. Like I know that like in terms of the scientific classification, they're still a carnivore, but like we consider animals that eat like mostly krill or whatever. Like we consider them to be more like, oh, they're gentle herbivores eating only krill, but krill are still like living animals.
I mean, lots of animals, lots of sea creatures eat plankton, and those are technically living things, but we don't really care that much.
What would what a species that only eats fungus be? Are they herbivores? Because fungus aren't plants. Hold on, Catherine's a scientist. She would know. I'm going to ask her. Let's see. I'm going to ask her this, and if she answers me in time for
I
next
think
part,
for the
I will
purposes
let
of
you know.
digestion, of digestive systems, mushrooms fall closer to plants than animals. So, animal digestion is freaking weird, though. So it's hard to tell.
Yeah. Well, these are the things we talk about on BrainScratch commentaries. Anyway, next part, we do the last of the backtracking before going to the final area. So we'll see you all then.